Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Chicken Show. Bark. There you go. There's an intro. One of these days. I was the one who let the team down. I slept in through the weekend. I had Saturday off. See, the school program is going into exam mode, so I'm not so stressed about students right now. And this Saturday, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep in. Unfortunately for Chris, he's sitting there going, "Where's Brian? Where's Brian?" My apologies, dude. You're so awesome. Anyway, congratulations to all the students who made it through another action-packed term of learning. And actually, I was, usually the more advanced material, especially when we get into GAN and all that. I often have Marat and Kiran and stuff sort of saying, that's the way Brian does it, but this is the way I'm going to be doing it here. So a little bit different. Keep in mind, always old dogs learning new tricks, and most of the material, the education material, is just basically taken from 30 years of my career working away. Putting it all together as best as I can, trying to acknowledge sources as we go. And if anybody, I will say, we started this education program in 2014. First time I actually had a student point out something that I had been clearly teaching wrong today. I was quite surprised. Usually I pride myself on being pretty good. But first, I suppose it's the first time for everything, eh? So I got it, and like I said to somebody else before we got this video going today, I actually think one of the signs of a professional is when somebody actually does point out, well, actually, this is what it says in the textbook. A little bit contrary to what you've been teaching us, Brian. I have to acknowledge, spade is a spade. So hats off today to Maruo. I don't know if I'm butchering your name. Sorry, sir, if I am. And a level 1 program pointed out that, and it's a bit of an irony, but hey, I'm not in this for ego. I'm in this to make JoJo and Spirit happy. We got to make a fucking positive difference in this world. And I don't care how that, if it means Brian has to look like a doofus and run around in a toupee and people make fun of him, so be it. I don't care. Or maybe I should say a tutu. Either or. You want to make fun of me? Fine. But we're here to make a positive difference in this world and try and, impart onto the public the correct message and not get you guys sort of suckered into thinking one thing when in reality is something else. But and you never know what this came out of left field yesterday, absolutely, or today even. Did not expect it, because the interesting thing with my education of the Japanese is that they're very, very strict. And I was taught, and I'm not quite sure now where, but I was taught that the Japanese are very strict about their candle patterns. And the word harami in Japanese, a direct translation, actually, a gentleman who took the course back in 2014, his wife was Japanese. She was the one who did the translation. It literally means pregnant lady with baby in the body. So my understanding was that if you had any part of the baby outside of mommy's body, that was a big no-no. And I definitely my study of the Japanese society, if you get something wrong, the samurai will come out and chop your head off. So I've always been teaching that the Japanese were religious about this concept of harami and the baby having to be inside mummy's body. When ironically enough, interestingly enough, like and in class today, it was sort of brought up, what is the signs of a harami reversal bar, these kind of things. And in Mr. Neeson's candlestick pattern book on page 82, a student highlighted the fact that the Japanese will accept harami with part of the baby's, in this case, a wick outside of mummy's body. And that was a bit of a surprise to me. It turns out that the people that are really stringent, the way that I originally learned charting, I was about to say candlesticks, but I actually started my world in a bar chart world. And this is what's called an inside bar. And that's the real key I'm trying to impart on you guys, is this concept called an inside bar or an inside reversal. Me, I guess, as a Westerner, I've always taught you guys that if we use the term harami, it must mean that everything must be inside mummy's body, when technically, according to Mr. Neeson's work, that's not the case. It's just the candle body or baby's body that has to be inside mummy's body. And we have seen, it's interesting, on the site recently, I have been talking to site members about candle body engulfing bars, where the wicks and tails are outside, but the candle body engulfing bar, if it's just the bodies of the candles themselves, they're pretty powerful signals themselves, regardless of the wicks and tails. So I actually think I have to change my my stance and my sort of message to you guys. And this is where I think I kind of screwed up. Is it's not the Japanese samurai who's going to jump out of the closet and chop your head off. It's the Western cowboy who's going to jump out of the closet and shoot your head off. Pow, 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 the gunslinger from the Wild West. So my apologies for long and short of it here, reversal bars are reversal bars are reversal bars. What we're teaching you in the course material, the classic inside bar harami, this is an incredibly powerful signal. Absolutely incredible. I don't necessarily teach this pattern. In fact, I would even call that, because this candle I would call a shooting star, and because this high is outside of the previous bar's high, I wouldn't even call that harami. So it's fascinating, and this is where I wanted to point out that, hey, old dog learns new tricks every day. I wouldn't necessarily call that harami, but Mr. Neeson and the classic Japanese candlesticks will. And so actually, I have to go out and actually probably over the next few weeks, I think I have to literally go in and change the course material to properly reflect this fact. So, thank you to Mr. And I like this. When this person pointed out in this class, I was like, well, where the hell did you see that? And he's like, well, on page 82 of Mr. Neeson's book. And I went in and I looked at it, and son of a bitch, the guy's right. And, if anything, what I actually am thinking is this guy probably deserves a maybe even like I hate to say it, but maybe even like a free level 2 course subscription for pointing out that error on my part. And also too, I really want to drive home the fact to all of you, I'm not here on some sort of pedestal. I'm not here saying, look how smart I am. I'm the shit. I often tell you guys, hey, don't get into the business of predicting the future, because nobody can predict the future, and that's just a waste of time. What I'll do is I'll trade away, and I'll even acknowledge right off the get-go, hey, if I'm doing this thing the way I'm supposed to, I'm still going to be right like 30-40%, or I'm still going to be wrong 30-40% of the time. So if anything, good that we acknowledge something that is pertinent, real. And I have to have humble pie and just say, look, we got to go in and alter the way the message that we're giving. I'm not going to change the fact that inside bars, which is ironic because this is sort of Westernese technical analysis, these are the shit as far as I'm concerned. And of course, that's a part of a 3-bar fractal if we move up through that high. And the low from the previous day was higher than this low. So that doesn't really change. And no, Stuart, you don't have to change the signals. We just have to maybe just change the wording. But if you were specifically trading harami bars, we guess I can call that a candle harami. But I wouldn't call that a. To me, that's baby's body is sticking outside of mummy's body. I don't like that. And what I've seen is that this pattern right here, where baby is completely inside mummy's body and it reverses, that's the shit. And that's what I really want you to learn, just like this guy right here. Also, too, Stuart, since you're there, what I really want to do, and I thought this was interesting, I didn't really want to get into this, but just reading the next line, what we really want to do is we want to hunt for doji bars that happen as haramis. So cool that you're here. If you want to write that down, Stuart, that's the shit. And I've seen the D signals work very, very powerfully. If you get like this big down day, then you get a doji inside, there's baby inside mummy's body, those doji bars. And it's interesting how to the Japanese, reading Mr. Neeson's writing here, he calls them the harami crosses. So that's something that we could probably add to our repertoire. I'll be thinking more and more about that going down the road. But really, really good analogy that, I've been at this stupid game for 30 bloody years, and you're always learning. You're always a student of the market. You're always adapting. You're always going, oh, I didn't know that. Well, I guess I got to learn something new today. You say, you're always learning something new. So congratulations to Moreau for pointing out something that needed to be corrected in our teaching. So that's good on you. Don't feel shy about that. And if anything, it's incumbent on us to make sure that the message is crisp and clear and accurate. So anyway, I want to start that off. Interesting sort of, in fact, somebody over there on YouTube says, Brian, you're the best, man. I don't know. I mean, what I also saw on Twitter the other day, like I had a spread trade that I came off of a weekly key reversal, and I love weekly key reversals, but the trade failed. And so when the key reversal bar breaks, you got to get the fuck out. You just got to say, whoops, I wasn't right about that. Capital preservation mode. All that. And I tweeted out, trade busted out. Better hop off on the sidelines, take your loss, move on, wait for the next one to set up. And somebody replied back, Brian, that's half of the reason why I follow you is you're not sort of going to paint some picture that you're never wrong. In fact, you tell us when you're wrong, and it's quite often. So, I mean, all we're doing is trying our best, right? That's at the end of the day, that's all that is. We're just trying our best. And that's my absolute promise to you is that I have to definitely make the promise to you that I come to you and I try my best. That's just one human to another. I have to say, I'm so proud of this community in that I can now see that it's actually growing beyond just me. I mean, 5-10 years ago when Julian and I first got together, I used to come on TradingView, and everybody used to just sit around and go, okay, yeah, tell us what are we supposed to be thinking next, Brian? And that's exactly what I don't want. Spent probably the better part of the level 1 class today just going, hey, you're here to learn the process. And it's not like anybody reinvents the process. The process is the process. It's pretty straightforward. It's so easy, but it's so impossibly hard to do. So, what I've sort of made it a mission for myself. Frankly speaking, I don't even think about the money anymore. The money is irrelevant. Um, and money is so ethereal, right? I mean, you see the way that these silly democratically elected politicians, they're so being played by the banksters, but they don't care. In my country, all the politicians just gave themselves a 20% raise. Why? Well, because inflation's so bad. We got to. You wouldn't expect a politician to have to suffer under these conditions, would you? And the printing presses just go, and it's so funny. The girl in my country is running the book. She has no experiences in the financial markets. She has no history of what money actually is. She just doesn't understand it. And she's like, because the banksters, this is exactly their plan, to dilute the currency so we can continue this silly debt for Casey. She's like, 10 billion for you, 10 billion for you. In fact, Stuart, you're watching here. You should post in the lounge the Oprah Winfrey, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Right? That's exactly the environment that she's doing right now. And she's in love with herself. She's so proud of herself that everybody gets all this free money. We're all rich. Yoo-hoo! Sort of. I mean, that's the kind of environment that we're in right now. And, Mr. Smith, he pointed it out very well several hundred years ago. Markets and I suppose societies to a certain degree, right? They how does it go? Can remain illogical far longer than any of us can remain solvent. So anyway, I mean, we all know this story, right? Part of Klaus's plan, all that kind of stuff. So if anything, and it's interesting because the other day I was driving down the road and I saw a Japanese restaurant with the name Harami on it. And I wonder if that was a foreshadowing of this. Because I looked at the restaurant and I went, that's a weird name for the name of a restaurant. So obviously Harami, that's the second time that Harami's been brought to my attention in as many weeks. Fascinating. So clearly I have to do some work on our Japanese candlesticks modules. And if anything, I think that module is getting a little old. Probably should spend the next few months updating a few course material modules. But anyway, work's never done. The universe definitely spoke. And now I got to figure out how the hell to get over to fucking Portugal and start taking a look at haciendas. Tell you that it just, the more and more I think about it, the more it feels right to just go get a nice little, the one place in particular that I really like over there is about 3 or 4 acres, a bit shy on the land, but it's got like 8 bedrooms and it's operating B&B. And I just love to just go get it and then just offer sort of like an in-person experience for people if they really wanted to, and just run the bed and breakfast and probably just have TRIers come and stay at the bed and breakfast. But just transition this from, instead of me just doing this in front of a computer screen in some crappy apartment, overpriced apartment in Vancouver, but maybe do this like with actually a live audience, and we're on the veranda. And there's a we got this fancy camera that Julian bought me to traipse around Europe with the last few years ago, and put all that invested money into good use. I think that would be actually a really great idea. Oh, I'm warming to that idea day after day after day. So anyway, what I will say is we have been spending our last sort of cycle, as you guys were all getting excited about DeFi, and crypto was using that developer cycle to get the DeFi engine up and running. And I think they made good use of the developer cycle. I think this past cycle, we actually started this website adventure right at the very top of the 2017 crypto market. So it's actually an interesting Yeah, see, I want to go the other direction. All these clowns, these computer clowns, actually want to take you the other direction. Somebody says better in real life than on the metaverse, right? But I actually want it to go the other way, where I actually want to now promote live and in person versus the metaverse. And if we want to dude everything up, so while we're sitting there, oh, Grim, you like that idea? I tell you, what I'm looking for is I'll put up half the capital myself. It'll come right out of my pocket so that you guys all know that I am fully invested in this idea. And then I'm looking for the community, what I would ideally like, because I want to make sure I can direct this exactly the direction that I want it to go, is I'll own 51% of the venture. And then I want the rest of the community, if we get like 20, 30 people in the community to chip in 10, 20 G's to make up the other 49%, then we put the whole wheels in motion and the place is there forever. That's what I'm thinking. So, or I go and put half of the money up myself, and I go to a bank and I get them to give me a mortgage for the other half, and I put the half up as collateral. I think I could do that too. But I would prefer that TRI, that we don't work with the banks, and that TRI internally finances this thing. But my pledge is I would be willing to put up half of the money myself out of my own pocket to get this thing up and running. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking. We're moving 100 miles an hour towards that. We started off thinking about Hawaii. Love Hawaii. It's ultimate dream. It's outside my affordability ballpark. Portugal, perfect. Like literally, you couldn't even get like the price of the equivalent asset in Hawaii that we're looking at in Portugal, probably $5-10 million, and I don't have that kind of money to throw around. So anyway, all right. So the point of the matter is here. Sorry, I got off on that crazy tangent about the Portuguese dream. But the point here is we spent the past 4 years building out this website, and Sjord there is on the call here today. Great to see you, Sjord. This is his baby. And he's been working his tail off for the past 4 years. And it looks like we're finally at the point where we are producing content that is going to become integral to sort of your trading experience. And that's really what I like. I like the idea that we provide tools that you are just not going to find anywhere else in the even in the cryptoverse, for that matter. I mean, you can use a lot of these tools across the stock markets, commodity markets, the whole thing. But I think we're actually starting to build tools now that you can use in crypto, and you'll never find any of the crypto kids doing the stuff that we do. It's beyond their thinking because they don't have a stock market background. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I come from 30 years of, trading, speculating, trying to sort of figure out people's emotions, right? Ironically enough, one of the hardest concepts for me to convey to all of you is this idea that everything that you do in your life is driven by two words. Most people a lot of people can't ever get to the point where they can even understand that thinking, but it's true. And it goes right down to your basic sort of core human existence, how your DNA is built. So that's the kind of stuff that we try to address. And if anything, I actually think the computerization of this, through the advent of digital proxies now, cryptocurrencies, tokens, I think actually this makes this actually even more fluid to see that transition back and forth from fear to greed. An example is somebody was publicly making reference to the fact that crypto is a bubble. And I would say, you're absolutely right. But crypto has actually been through a few bubbles. So you could make the argument that even here, in fact, really, you could even make the argument, guys, when they first got in, Da Vinci first got in, that was back here. I mean, hell, you could make an argument that crypto was in a bubble in 2013. And then, of course, its ultimate blow off top here in late 2013, 2014. You could make an argument that both of these were bubbles, but because this is venture capital, the market cleans up the bubble very, very quickly. And so we actually go through multiple bubbles. That I would say, there was even one here. This is just Stamp. Brave New Coin even goes even further back. But there's been a bunch of bubbles in crypto, and so I do find it interesting. So here's our next one, right? What is crypto a bubble here? There's a Floyd Mayweather. This is, BitConnect. Nobody talks about BitConnect anymore, eh? Funny how times change. This is another bubble. And the market cleans that bubble up. And that's the one thing I like about crypto is that it's painful. It's, and sadly, a lot of people lose a lot of money. And, some people even lose their lives over this stuff. But the market, because this is venture capital and because this is very computerized, I would actually make an argument that the bubbleness, yep, it's going to get crazy when we go through bubbles. And then the unwinding of the bubbles, this can be cataclysmic. Of course, shitcoins go to like almost nothing, pretty much right off the board. And then we start the whole damn thing all over again. So I did find it amusing that people are coming out now and saying crypto is a bubble. And, the irony of it all is you're right. Way to go. And I can tell you the easiest, quickest cure for this is they're going to knock the price of this thing right back down. And then the bubble will disappear and we start the whole damn thing all over again. And that is the hallmark of venture capital. It's just the way the markets work. So I am hearing, and I think that this the reference that I'm making specifically is the rah insanity over NFTs and the ridiculously high prices that some people are actually paying for these high NFTs. And frankly speaking, I have to agree with you. I don't know how this plays itself out. I thought it was funny. At TRI, of course, we have a very robust community. So in the community lounge, I don't know where the hell I put it, but in the community lounge, somebody was posting these videos. I gotta say, this was amusing. When I watched this video, it was quite funny. I'm not really involved in the whole NFT part of this space, but these kind of stories, this is worrying me. This is exactly how these tops usually come in. And the worst part about it is over the past 4 or 5 years, I've actually gotten to know a few of the type of people in this industry that are very, very much like this character. There was also another video that these guys posted, or somebody in the lounge posted this morning. I think it was done by these guys, about sort of the NFT craze and how his buddies like just going apeshit loading up on these. So the writing's on the walls. A little bit worrisome what's going on here about this. And, I hate to say it, but it feels like the setup is in place. Because I remember, I tell you guys this almost every single week. I remember going to Europe through this part here and going to like conferences and stuff like that. And everybody was convinced everything was fine. And everybody was like, oh, yeah, should I buy? Should I buy? Should I buy? And I'm not going to say anything. All I'm going to say is, you build a plan, to try and identify 3 reasons to invest in something. Try and find good fundamental reasons. Try and find, can I buy where the directors themselves are long? All that kind of stuff. You know how I go. So, of course, weekly W's, all that kind of conversation. In fact, actually, I think Josh even put out the video recently when I did sort of talk about, hey, there's a weekly W on Bitcoin. Maybe we should pay attention. But I remember I was going through Europe and everybody's sort of like, yeah, raw crypto. But there was one more big fuck you coming down the pike here in October, November. And that's usually when it happens. And I'm very worrisome, folks, that we are basically, right about here. We're right here right now. This is 1718. I remember in this kind of environment, people were still, oh, yeah, Bitcoin's going to make new highs and stuff. And it's just like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, so the point I would just make is did hear some people talking about bubbles. And unfortunately, they always say, what's the cure for high prices? High prices. What I'm a little worried about here is what's the actual value of one of these Bitcoins, all right? And that's where we get into things like cost of production. This is the S17, S19. And when all the fluffiness, all the I'm going to be using Bitcoin as a store of value because I have no faith in the U.S. government and the U.S. dollar and U.S. hegemony and all that kind of stuff. When all that kind of conversation ends, usually, unfortunately, it's when the public has been sort of lost. They're heavily invested. That's when these things come down to earth. Like I said, the ultimate washout, the last cycle was like in October, November, and that's when I think it's going to come here. Where do prices ultimately bottom out? If this was our top, I'm thinking more and more what it is, but I don't know. I guess only time will tell. But if this is our top and we correct, where are we ultimately going to bottom? And I've told you guys repeatedly that what I often find, and it drives me crazy, is that, the market will eventually bottom right off this darn 78.6. If you don't listen to me, I think a guy who's super smart in this space is a guy named Simon Dixon, Bank to the Future. He always starts his public videos with Bitcoin. Just wait for it to correct 70-80% of its previous moves, 78.6. Well, and just get in there and start accumulating. So we're not there. And unfortunately, I have to keep having the same message, same conversation with you guys week after week after week. You're not buying value here. That's for absolute certain. The question ultimately here, and this is why I had this image up here. The question ultimately here is, if this is still a bull and this thing has inertia, we're basically in the what one of our site OGs, he himself coined it, and I think it's really good on his. He started up a podcast. I think that's what they call it, Colin, and he liked to call this his Colin's Pump Chaser Zone. Not allowed to chase and buy up top here. I have to wait for 38.2 to 50% correction, and you can even see if I use that same logic off of. It does. There we go. Use off the same logic off last time, right? 38.2, 50%. If I load it up in the pump chaser zone and the thing zips up to new highs, oh, look how smart I am. Woohoo. So, well, I can see the logic. Here we are, 38.2 to 50%. We are in that zone. I just don't know whether this is healthy, what's the term I'm looking for? This is set up a position of strength going forward. I actually think this is still a position of weakness. Remember, like something like this event here, market dumps, there's that damn W off 78.6, like a son of a gun. Rallies up, and in this case, rather cliche, rallies up right to Mountain Man, 61.8, gets rejected off of that. Works its way back down against the bottom end of range. And then we have this huge panic in the marketplace that has absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin. And price is just falling off a cliff. There is the perfect analogy buying when they're crying, and then, of course, selling when they're yelling. So, and, I would suggest to you that if you're going to look for times and events to buy assets, try and buy them. Like, I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised if looking down the road, this whole Russian-Ukrainian war thing and stuff, it's setting up buys down the road that we'll look back and go, oh, geez, if I just had the balls to step in and buy like those tech stocks when they were getting ripped apart because of what Vladdy was doing in Eastern Europe, which has absolutely nothing to do with anyway. I hope you're understanding the connection I'm trying to make here. Is if you can find situations where the market's melting down, has absolutely nothing to do with your asset, those are often just the best situations to get into. Also, too, I might argue that, after this big down move, then the up move, all the players have been washed out. So coming in against the bottom end of the range, I would actually argue that's probably a pretty low risk entry down there. And of course, hindsight's 2020. Oh yeah, look how smart I am. So here, are we at the bottom end of the range? Not really. Are we at the very top end of the range? Are you walking into a trap right now? Well, not really either, the other way. So to me, something like this looks like, well, I'm too late to sell, but I'm still a little too early to buy. So a guy like me, and then, of course, knowing the 4-year cycles and all those kind of fun things, I just got to sit here and go, this is fun and all, but there's not really a hell of a lot for a guy like me to do here right now. What I will say is and that's like investing, going to save for my retirement, going to invest in Bitcoins, as a nice value proposition. Keep in mind, where are those S17, where are those S19 spitting out Bitcoins? Way down here. So just be aware of that. Here's kind of a fun image I've been working on recently. This drives the gold bugs and stuff absolutely crazy. But also, too, hopefully you can understand that maybe Bitcoin needs to take a bit of a pause here. If we start, since Bitcoin, started 2008, but let's just start with our brave new coin here at 2010, right there at nothing. Do you kind of notice that since that time, even if we go, okay, well, there's, 2010, I suppose, is there. Stock market's just come back up against its old highs from basically, there's George Bush's stock market peak. So really all the stock market has done is just come off of that crash low in that same time period and rally back to where it was prior to the crash. So be interesting to even know what a Bitcoin would ultimately be worth before that. Something like crude oil, I mean, gee whiz, there's 2010 when Bitcoin just got started. Crude oil is still lower. Even though, isn't there a war going on, double digit or triple digit crude oil? We are still a shadow of what we were, even after George Bush and all his fucking cronies were run out of Washington. We're still a shadow of what we were then. Well, how about natural gas? Maybe natural gas is better. Nope. Now, and this is what's scary, right? As you guys saw those prices of natural gas in Europe recently because of the war. But is it really, or is it maybe just this is North American cheap natural gas? Maybe that UK natural gas, it's probably actually gotten back up here. But that's the irony of it all, is what I'm trying to say is actually a lot of these prices are, look at, this is gold. I mean, talk about pissing the gold bugs off. There's your 2010, 2011, right? Right around there. I don't know. Where's 2010 right here, right? So what did we start this? This is September 2010. So there's September 2010 right there on the gold price. So there we are today. That's in real dollar terms. That is a bad investment. Buying gold there and holding on to it today, even though you open up the newspaper and gold price is higher than when it was back then. How does that work, Brian? It's the magic of controlling the hegemony. Assholes. Let's go. I don't know. Here's high grade copper. There's 2010. Where's September? There's September there. Again, a shadow of what we were. So this is what kills me when this is wheat. Remember, everybody's all excited about wheat prices now, right? So where's September 2010? There it is. I won't buy it. Anyway, somewhere in here, right? So we're not even back to that level in the wheat market. All right, what's this? Oh, this is your pork chops and applesauce. There's 2010. Look at that. Believe it or not, you go to the grocery store and the goddamn fucking, I don't know whether you guys have seen what the price of a steak is or pork chops or any poultry or anything at the grocery store, but it's getting pretty damn high, eh? Well, in reality, no, it's not. It's still pretty damn cheap. So that's the scary reality of this world that we live in, folks. And I don't see anybody in the public. Number one, they're not acknowledging this. And number two, I don't even think they understand what these fucking banksters have done to us. And this is why, I started off the video. Silly little Canadian finance minister has absolutely no idea what the hell she's doing in there. Hey, 10 billion for you, 10 billion for you, 10 billion for you. That money's got to come from somewhere. They are literally just printing this money out of thin air. That's what this conversation is all about. You go to the grocery store and you're going to see now $100 steaks. That wouldn't surprise me. It's because little miss, I haven't got a clue what the fuck I'm doing, is getting played by the banksters. She doesn't realize it. She thinks she's a hero to the public, but she's getting played. And you wonder why people buy Bitcoin. Because it's the only thing that's actually holding on to any value here. Now, one thing I would ask all of you to take into account. Now, let's call a spade here, folks. Do you think that Big Brother is happy with this situation? Yeah, that's the irony of it all. And I think it's interesting how the banksters, they don't want to get involved in this. But I think what the banksters are going to do is they're going to use the politicians to try and gain control of this beast. The interesting thing is once they've gained control of this beast, then I think it is our future. I've said to you guys repeatedly, ever since literally somebody go find this back from 19 wasn't that long ago, 2015 kind of videos where I said that by the end of this experiment, every single one of us is going to have a digital, you could call it a cryptocurrency, you could call it a token, you could call it a blockchain ledger, whatever. Every single one of us is going to have a ledger of our lives where every single thing, every tax dollar, every penny you've ever earned, so it can be properly taxed, is going to be recorded on the blockchain, and you as a good slave cannot hide anything from the banksters and their tax, right? Because that's what they do, is they tax society. And the blockchain, ironically enough, works perfectly in their model. Yeah, I would argue that the global government idea eventually, all free markets, if you think about biological entities, if you take a petri dish of just a sample of water out from the ocean, what do you actually see when you look at the petri dish? What you see is a whole bunch of organisms all fighting with each other. Some organisms are carnivorous and they consume other organisms. Other organisms are omnivorous. They'll eat other types of organisms. But in essence, it's all one organism consuming another organism. And if you think, that's what they call the food chain. And ultimately at the top of the food chain, there is sort of the, what do they call it, like the apex predator kind of idea. So my hunch is that I think what ends up happening with this capitalism thing, it's an ethereal organism. It's not actually physical, but it takes on all the same attributes as an organism. So if you look at the way the marketplace works, whether these humans like it or not, we just seem to be part of this, the way the universe is constructed, then we all are predatory on other organisms and other humans, and business is predatory on other business, and they call it the competitors, and we want to put our competitors out of business. So then ultimately all the businesses that were free market competition, they start now congealing into sort of regional or sectional organisms, and they start going to war with each other and trying to consume each other. Sort of, just think of the food chain and the apex predator. And then it just keeps moving up and up and up and up the food chain. And my hunch is that government is nothing more than another form of one of these organizational bodies. So you can make the argument that individual nation states and the evolution of the nation state over, say, the past 1,000, 2,000 years is that sort of evolutionary process where ultimately we should sort of work our way into oligopoly collusion states. And I think that's the phase that we're in right now, where we were in sort of individual nation states. If you think of like Germany 100 years ago, it was, or maybe 200 years ago, it was just a whole bunch of principalities. So then in like 1871, somebody comes along and says, hey, why don't we merge all of these principalities into one sort of nation state? We all have the same language, we have the same common ethics, the business practices are the same. France has its common law versus, or how does that work? France has a law code that actually is very different than the way the British have their law code. I think under the French, I think Napoleon, he came in and he sort of created the law code, and I think they even call it the Napoleonic Code. But anyway, the point being that, here in Canada, for instance, we have the British system, but we also have the French system, because Quebec, of course, they want to hold on to their sort of uniqueness. So they have, when I was a broker, you had to learn two different codes of law. So in Canada, for instance, Quebec has the British, or has the French code. I can't remember what the name of the law is. It's common law versus something else law. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, so the point being of all this is we will congeal into these oligopolistic entities, nation state-wise. And I think that's the phase that we're in. So you see the Eurozone is now starting to congeal into its own block. China, I think to a certain degree, is trying to congeal that whole area. Because keep in mind, China, even a few hundred years ago, very, very different places. Like, in fact, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty. Point here is that it was very fractional, and you can see, now we have one China policy and all that. One might argue the United States of America, a really good example, where you have a whole bunch of states, right? And they congealed into one powerful nation state. And now I think we're in the phase where, like I said, the Euro, they're starting to congeal into a block. The Americas are trying to congeal, especially North America and its whole sort of wranglings over North American free trade agreement and all that kind of fun stuff. You can see how they're trying to congeal into a block. I would imagine Asia, to a certain degree, is probably side players are really worried. Who is the dominant player? The irony of it all is that everybody's conveniently forgotten about Japan. And Japan was the shit 100 years ago. Nobody fucked with Japan 100 years ago. So it is kind of interesting how conveniently history is forgotten about Japan. I got a funny feeling where, especially with recent events in Ukraine, where now Germany is actually starting to participate in the militarization of populations. I got a funny feeling this coming year, 100 years, we're going to hear about Japan and Germany coming back on the scene big time, militarily wise. Anyway, that's here and there. Point here is that somebody made reference to this one world government. I don't think we're quite at that stage. I think we're still at this. We're leaving the stage of the nation state world. And we're moving into the trading block world, where I think continents themselves become sort of congealed power bases. That's the stage that I think I'm at. So, and if we think about this, we've been wondering who is the next world hegemony. Interestingly enough, I like the idea of the Eurozone actually potentially becoming the next hegemony, especially if over the next 10, 15 years, we can somehow get a hold of Russia and bring it into that European fold, which of course is going to make them fucking angrier than shit. And I could see that the Euro power base becomes sort of the Euro itself become that next hegemony proxy. I could also see the Amero. Nobody's ever talked about the Amero. It's interesting how the Amero sort of disappeared. But I could see the Amero start to emerge as a realistic hegemony proxy as well, where that's the Canadian, U.S., and Mexican economies all merge into one currency. Although I suppose people living down in the southern U.S. probably won't be too happy about that. So anyway, just in reference to somebody made reference to sort of the world order. I don't think we're quite there. I could see by the end of this century, I could see that we actually could be heading into that global currency, global one government. I could see that next century, not this century. This century, I think, is going to be all about these regional blocks. Anyway, only time will tell. Lots of fun. What should we talk about today? I have no idea. I guess maybe we should pop on over and check out. There's only one or two questions from the additional sheet, so I'm not really too worried about level oneers. And I got to say, I love the fact that this website and the school program and everything, it really feels like it's evolving beyond just sort of like some clown Brian Beamish's sort of look on the market. That this has now become a community of professional traders, that each and every one of us actually brings a unique personal angle to this conversation that makes this really multi-dimensional. When I listen to Grim talk to the level oneers, and the great part about it is Shartoshi is sort of like lead TA in the level one. These gentlemen are speaking from a position of authority. You can hear it in their voice. And the interesting thing is when you are an authority on something, you don't have to raise your voice. You can laugh. You can just joke it because you know what you're talking about. It's not like you have to drive the message home. No, you don't understand. You have to do it this way. You either do it this way or you just don't succeed at this. It's that simple. So I love to listen to the tone of the conversation. It's a tone of not arrogance, because in this In fact, we were even joking about it in the level 1 class earlier. In this space of trading that's so filled with testosterone, I guess, for lack of a better term, so filled with ego, so filled with, no, I'm better than you, and because I'm better than you, you're shit and you're nothing. Everybody kiss my ass and suck my, you know what, and all that stuff. That's the one thing I really like about TRI. Not a lot of attitude here. Don't, you heard the way that I started off this broadcast with, actually, I learned something new today. We all are students of the market. We are all constantly learning. There should be no ego to this whatsoever. And when I sit and listen to Sharktoshi gave just the most beautiful presentation to our level 2ers about writing algos and stuff. And it's just very calm, just very matter of fact. Just, if you want to do this, this is how you do it. You're in the right place to learn. But you don't have to follow. And if you don't want to, no big deal. 6 to 1, half dozen the other. So I hope I come across that way. I really do. If anything, I think in our level 2 class, it was surprising I had to re-mention this because I always say this to the level 1ers. Our job is not to tell you, look, you must trade this way. That's not our job whatsoever. Our job, of course, teach you the process, right? How do you build setups? How do you hold yourself to account? How do you track all this stuff? How do you put yourself in a position where you can actually learn and grow versus, you're anxiety riddled and you're just frozen and you seem to just keep going around in circles and circles, which happens to a lot of people. And the one bad part about this social media world is you can have a guy who can go in and trade like the wind, but man, it's horrible in Educator. And they get all wrapped up in their ego is so important. Yes, I just made $1 million. So all of you have to, bow down and kiss my feet before I tell you, what I think you should do in the market. We were joking about one gentleman earlier in the level 1 class about how just because you're a good trader, it doesn't make you a good educator. Maybe I'm a good educator, which doesn't make me a very good trader. I don't know. They always say, if you can't do this, but hopefully, I demonstrate, hey, I was a funded prop trader. I ran a brokerage book for a very long period of time. I've done almost all the jobs in the industry. So hopefully I demonstrate through best practices. And of course, I am making some half decent money in the market. So I don't feel badly about that. But I'll tell you, man, just finding a community where you can sit and just get the straight goods from somebody without them blowing a fucking load of steam up your ass, that's tough. Well, geez, Ewald, that number was way, way higher at one point. But I don't really care. What's more importantly, and I wish you guys would say this, is, well, you said you were going to do something and you did it, and you don't take more than 5% risk on any single one investment, and you run setups, and from what I see, they seem to be about 60% accurate, 60, 70%, somewhere in that area. So you're doing what you said you're going to do, and that's why I want to follow you. So I'm not really a big fan on like hard dollar figures. But anyway, I'm just rambling now. Okay, let's answer. And actually, we got 4 questions now. So no idea whether I can answer them, but I'll give it my best shot. And of course, if you are sitting in and you go, oh, geez, I wanted to ask a question. Now's your opportunity. And this is open to level 1, 2s, and 3s. So if you are sitting here watching, you want to ask a question, just hop on and fire away. So number 1, I said, is there a link or place on the site where I can find the setups that you post in Twitter and videos? I wanted to go and check them out in TradingView since these diagrams are not clear on videos. Most of the time, I've tried to make a promise to you guys. I did try and hire somebody to track this a while ago, but that fell apart. I don't know whether I can get somebody to track it. It sure would be helpful, and it would be a good investment for TRI to make. The only thing I'll tell you is every trade that I do, I try and post in my Brian's Big Bot trading signals room here on the website. So everything I do in the market, every trade I do, I post the chart in here. So I don't know whether you even knew whether this existed or not, but that's my answer to you. Now, a lot of times I'll just be posting in the chart in the lounge, like even here this morning. Usually what I do is I wake up in the morning and I just pull up a chart and say, all right, well, this was our last long entry level. Their profit objective, which is I think a 50% level tag, was hit. And now we're just sitting here treading our waters, waiting for the next setup to develop. So let's see what I said here. Wouldn't be interested in a short yet and still too soon to buy. So really just consolidating following last move. So, and I might even put out a tweet to that effect. All right. And in fact, the tweet that I put out this morning is somewhere along those lines where last week I put out a tweet kind of saying up here, breadth is rolling over. This happens to be the Bitcoin chart. I think the other one was Ethereum. Looks like we got an M top working. I see a double reload zone here. So if I was thinking about levels where I would want to think about looking for this thing to bottom out and start turning back up, it's probably somewhere down in this area. But that's not really a trade. So it's not really like you're going to find these kind of charts anywhere in particular. It's just me shooting the shit on whether it be the site or whether it be Twitter. But what I've tried to do, like I said, I guess that's different. What I've tried to do on the site is, especially for TRI, because I'm running a book for TRI. Where the hell am I? So, where's the chat room? I guess that's over here. So for any of my personal accounts that I'm trading or any account that I take a trade for TRI, I'll put the trade down here. So hopefully that helps. You can see everything I've been doing lately. Like this little pharma stock, actually, I went and bought a little bit more of this down here. Boring. Not really exciting stuff. So, as I said earlier, we did have somebody who was trying to track that. I think Julian even had a girl that was doing our support role try to track this. But for some reason, this is 8 years into this. I can't get the team to get somebody to track all of my trades for me. Drives me nuts. So that you guys can have Sjord tried to do it for a long time, just automated, but yeah, this is a mess. I don't even know. I don't even know what this is. Average AVG allocation. Hey, there you go. XGD 9%. That's my biggest is in Digi. I didn't know that. And Link is my smallest. Do I really follow this that closely? Hey, look at this. This is 297. That's 300 there. You well, not 200. This is actually, ironically enough, this is what's left over after we've taken, I think about 300. No, yeah, I'd say easily 300,000 out of this. Paid taxes on it. Cocksuckers. This is actually what's just sitting left over. So that's kind of funny. I don't think the automated tracking of this ever worked very well. What needs to happen, and it's a total pain in the ass, is I need to have, and this is just a trade journal. That's interesting that that's even in here. This was just a journal that I wrote. I tried to just make some entries here so you guys could sort of see what typical journal entries look like. But I think what I have to do at TRI is just get somebody, hire them, and their job is just to track and journal all of these trades. Like I said, everything that I do is right in here. So I don't know how we do that, but I've told the team that would be a good idea. I think the team's on board. It's just every time we try and go down that road, it always gets dislodged by something. And frankly speaking, I don't even really care about. I mean, yes, I care about my trading. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be the demonstrator of bad practices. I want to make sure that I'm the demonstrator of best practices. But that's not a priority for me with this website. This website, I mean, something like with the breadth now, theoretically, this is completely automated. And now this is a tool that is completely impartial. It's entirely up to the market. It's data driven, no opinion whatsoever. Now, those are the kind of tools that I wanted to focus on building. Things like building a automated platform that just spits out key reversal signals on a daily basis, whether they be weekly, daily, US stocks, Canadian stocks, European stocks, whatever. That to me was way more valuable than having this fancy reporting of what I'm doing in the marketplace. I don't even give a shit about that. I wanted, and this is why, like, I think I started this video off saying that we've spent this developer cycle building this website and this crazy ass fucking Delacorte index thing. That's Chris, where you go, you can have one of those chicken voiceovers. Sorry. If you're going to use this. I mean, we've literally spent the past 4 years working on bringing this to life. This is way more valuable than any kind of fancy schmancy reporting of how Brian's doing in his trading. I'm doing all right. Don't get me wrong. Making money. Account balances are going up. That's the most important thing. But this is the shit. This is what takes TRI to the next level versus just watching some individual's performance in the market. And I can't wait to show you. I mean, the interesting thing is, guys like Josh, I don't know whether you're watching this video. Chris, if you are, I think I made reference to this. Did you guys not watch this crypto index? And I even said specifically about a month ago that is very, very dangerous. When crypto, you see crypto is heavily overbought in the short term and heavily overbought in the medium term. That is a major sell signal. So we have that on record. And so now we can just walk through and say, see, this is what happens following that. So, Josh, whether you're watching, I hope we can make a note. And, what we have to do is go back through these videos and just pick these screenshots out and go, see, when this happens, that usually happens. And then this becomes an absolutely invaluable tool that, this is build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. There's no reason why once this is up and running, and I mean, let's face it, this thing has been fucking killing it. Excuse my French. This thing has been killing it. I can't believe how utterly pure this is. And it was even cool watching people going, I had bearish setup, breath was pointing down, went with it, bam, man, and made money in like 2 or 3 hours. Cha-ching! I mean, this thing is just absolutely perfect. It's doing exactly what I had envisioned of it. And because of this, like, this should make Julian and Sjord millionaires. And it should, and maybe even billionaires. It's that revolutionary of a product. So what was it significant in this past and developer cycle? What was significant to get this done or to get the fancy schmancy reporting of Brian's trading done? This was way more important, way more significant. That sort of idea. We built the school. So if you want to learn how to trade, come and just learn how to run a small business of trading. It's beautiful, the school. It's polished. And some of the topics could use a little updating. No big deal. Now, and think of the school as sort of like, that's your invitation to come to TRI. Now, what is going to keep you at TRI. And I think it's this stuff. This is what's going to keep you at TRI. This is kind of like, actually, what's really interesting? The best way to describe this, and I don't even know if Frank is even still in the crypto and the trading universe. I doubt it. I have a funny feeling he was washed out years ago. But ironically enough, actually, he I don't know how to do this. Usually, if I click on this, oh, there we are. But this guy actually nailed it, and it's interesting because a buddy of his was. Oh wow, you see what's happening here, Chris? We got to fix this. I'm not quite sure what you've done here or what we've done, but this was supposed to be one of these like this, and now this is putting this. This should actually be in here. So, oh God, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, usually when I come to this page, there is a front page intro video here. So I'm not quite sure where our front page video intro kind of screws up my pitch here. Anyway, I wanted to show you the, where the hell would it be? Why? I don't know why it's like that. That's going to take me to my own. Yeah. Oh, isn't that screwy? Anyway, I was going to show you this wonderful intro video that we have on the front page of our YouTube page with Frank, but it's not there. So I don't know what the hell to say. Anyway, this is sort of where I was going with all this. This is like, am I going to fish for you? Right? Me just having sort of my trading journal and you all just take exactly my trades and you're just all blind minions. That's me fishing for you. I don't want to fish for you. I want to teach you how to fish on your own. So that's building your trading plan. And then these are the tools. Like these are our kick-ass lures. This is our awesome baits, right? And this is our awesome hooks, right? The whole thing. And we're going to be shortly integrating Joe's souped up version of my weekly commodity trend survey. Page on that dashboard. This is really interesting because as you can see, no buys in crypto. Interesting in crypto, we did actually have a couple hunting sells. So this is actually a really good lesson in how you can use a matrix like this. Well, what should I maybe avoid? And if I am long, should I maybe think about lightening up? What was it here that the market was actually saying, this thing's getting a little bit expensive? Thought it was interesting. It was Luna. Of course, Stuart doesn't want to see that. What's Luna been doing over the past few days? Was Luna a good idea to be a buyer there past few days? I don't think so. Where's good old Luna? And Luna took a bit of a haircut. Boom, boom, boom. So, if anything, this is good, and it'll be interesting to see as time goes by, as Luna's price is cleaning itself up and correcting. Does it start to actually get itself out of the doghouse here? This is, you're really best. Don't go down these roads. You're asking for trouble going and buying an asset that looks like that. And sure enough, Luna got bitch slapped. I don't know what this near has done. I suppose this is a weekly chart. So now we're painting a huge doji, same sort of thing. Probably best, maybe just leave that one alone. And I think, like as we kind of pointed out, Luna is a little bit expensive. And probably best don't go in and buy that. So, once Stuart's actually working away on this as we speak. So if we're really lucky over the next day or two, we might even have this integrated on here. But I'll tell you, this is sort of if I had a wish list of what could get done soonest that actually provides value, this is a Herculean job that we pulled off here. Way to go, Stuart, if you are still watching. We're well on our way here. I think Jojo will be very, very impressed. And more importantly now, and hopefully it's my privilege to show you how hugely significant this information is I'm just going to show you. Now, oh, look at what we got here. Can you tell me, is the cryptoverse overbought now? Anyone? I mean, you tell me. And actually, this is interesting. Is this a slam dunk buy in crypto right here with the medium term sitting at minus 45? Not yet. So it's interesting how on the short term, yeah, we are getting pretty washed out here. We're probably due for some sort of short-term bounce here to get this off of the zero line. But we're not quite at the point where it's a slam dunk W right across the board. We got to get in there and buy. And, you look at the breadth indicator. What do you think? Does that sort of look like that? You can see short term, they've just washed this thing out. And remember in the, let's see if you guys can answer this. If we get the fast that crosses above the slow, with the slow still sloping down, what would Brian call that? A what buy signal? I think you won, Edward. Good. Well, a couple people. Maybe we'll get you guys to do the tutorial video. I think Josh is working away on this, but I don't know. But anyway, point of the matter here is, it's also super cool. This is so super duper cool. We were looking at this morning. You can actually drill into this thing even in more depth. If you come up to our breadth table, this is where all these tables are listed, and we scroll down to crypto top 30. Now, the image on the right is what you just saw, but the image on the left is a zoomed in version. And hello, look at what we have down here. Isn't that interesting? Can you see what I see? So you can clearly see something's trying to go, I kind of feel like I'm trying to bottom, And then I was showing this to Chris earlier. The way you can really zoom in on this is you can just sort all of this top 30 names in our universe. Whether this is the best universe to use, could this be better names? I would really like to leave that up to the community. If anything, if somebody wants to be, I am Captain Top Crypto 30 Hunter, and TRI, I maintain the 30 index, and I'm on top of what's hot and what's not. I'd love that. That would be awesome. And if one of our Wednesday show co-hosts wants to do that job, that'd be cool. And speaking of which, actually, Derek and Nick will be shortly retiring. I'm not even quite sure what Ben's schedule is going forward. We've already had one person step up and volunteer to fill in one of the co-hosts' shoes. So if you do feel like being a Nick or a Derek, try not to be a Derek, though, when it comes to writing level 3 exams. Sorry, Derek. I had to get in another jibe there. But if you ever wanted to become part of a YouTube podcast and talk charts with the Beamish every Wednesday night in Crypto Land, feel free to let me know. I'm always taking applicants as we speak. Anyway, so back to our story here. We can now sort the names based on the ratings from best to worst. And now we can actually look at a nice little summary charts from best to worst in crypto land. XMR is killing it. Dash is looking pretty good. There's Luna. It's number 3 on our list. And really, I would say, the easiest way to find a buy signal on a list like this is just find a W. Somebody show me a W. Kind of like what we were saying there about the broader market. We have had a lot of down here recently. And so that's why I think we're due for some sort of up. But you can see there aren't any W's here, right? Everything was just straight down after an M that just came in, like this algo. All right, we just had a very well-defined amp, up, down, or up, down, up, fail. Right, that was, and you see them, they're right across the board in everything. So we just had the market dump hard. And what we're saying is on a short-term basis, yeah, we're probably going to see these things bounce back up, probably an underside kiss of this market structure. Then we come back down, test the lows. And if we start Wing out then we know, hey, we probably got something. But right now, these are all just V bottoms. Every single one of them, it looks almost exactly the same. And the irony of it all is it's exactly the same as Bitcoin. You know, Julian's told you guys this 100 times, which is kind of funny. Because I think he's right, is that on balance, these cryptocurrencies generally move somewhat the same. You know, this would be the situation, right? There's our top, everything overbought, ridiculous, got to come down, it's cleaning itself up. It's been basically a straight move down. And now, you know, we're saying everything on the short term's oversold, so we probably need to have a bounce. You can see the bounce. It's happening in the corn as we speak. You can also see, too, that this high to low trend line, very powerful concept that we teach in our level 2 program when we deal with trend lines. I think that's probably your pivot in the market right now. So you can see how just the other day it acted as a pretty significant resistance there. So as the market dead cat bounces and everything comes out of that ridiculously oversold situation, we're probably going to rally back up to that high to low trend line, then back off. And then, like I said, we'll come back down, test the lows. And if this low can hold here and then we start turning up, hey, we might actually even have the beginnings of a head and shoulders, which might set up a nice trade. What would that be? About a week or two from now. I don't mean to be rude. I don't think that's going to happen. I do believe that crypto's got a little bit of tough sledding ahead of it. But we'll see what happens. I wouldn't get into the business of predicting the future. Just let it happen. So as you can see from this chart right here, I have sort of asked if the market is going to move forward and I do want to trade it, how the hell am I going to participate? And of course, you all know I'm a big fan of trend continuation patterns. So if I go say something like, where's the low? There it is. If I go from this low up to this high as one move, and then I consider this sort of like the midpoint consolidation, then that means that the other side of the move has to look something like there to there. In this case, it looks like just the purpose of this study, I studied from that low there, just this move unto itself. And I might feel more comfortable now that we've corrected a bit more. I might feel a little bit more comfortable in using this whole range. I use this smaller range. Well, actually, that goes there to there. That's fine. So if I go boobity-boo, then that's this fib there to there. My rule for trend continuation is I want to see at least a 33% correction, which is that level there, and no more than a 66, which is beyond there. If we go beyond 66, then odds are this is probably just a trading range and we're just banging back and forth. But as long as we stay in this sort of range, then I can actually, it's not this, I can go boobity-boo and boobity-shmoo. And actually, I even heard somebody the other day on the site using my boobity-boo reference, so that made me happy. Put a smile on my face. Which one is it? That one? Yeah, there we go. I go there to there, there to there, and then go about trade. All right. So now, what does this say to me? If we have that scenario that I just painted, that, hey, maybe this actually is the beginnings of a bull, I'm going to start moving up. I've got my downtrend line to work with. Actually, interesting, I've got a pretty powerful uptrend line as well. and sort of just jogging along there. So my hunch is you can see how they come to an apex right here. This downtrend line and this uptrend line, you can see low, low, low. So clearly this is a pretty darn important line. And this goes all the way back to that low and then there. This goes back quite a ways. Oops, oh darn. I know, very messy chart. Does it even go back there? Wow, look at that. So it even goes through there. It gets a little disconnected here as we go through time. Anyway, I do like that level there and that level there. In fact, I think I even called this a shoulder to shoulder trend line. Yeah, shoulder to shoulder. What do I mean by that is this almost looks like a shoulder, shoulder, head, and then a cockeyed, cockeyed neckline. So you can sometimes connect the dots off of the shoulders. And what I like to do when I draw these trend lines is just simply ask, is the market respecting this level? Does it even make sense? And, as we drew that out over time, boom, 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 and boom. Oh, that M top actually fired right off of that same line. So clearly that's some sort of significant level for the marketplace. So this line working its way up, and then this just very simple market structure trend line off of the top here seems to come to some sort of apex right in there, right? And ideally what I'd like to see if I was a bull is I would like to see the market actually get back above this trend line here and then start to actually show me bullish signs over here on the other side of that trend line. Then I could start thinking about trend continuation. And if this is a trend, well, it's telling us 57 Gs all the way up top. But hopefully you can see that is very young in the making. There's got to be a lot of work that has to go into forming some sort of base. And just in the near term, what I would say absolutely without a shadow of a doubt is this 25 line with the trend lines here. This now is a huge, I would say it's a magnet, but it's also a major resistance line. And that's, of course, assuming that these lows hold, right? We don't even know. This thing might roll over and come down. And if it does come down, you just have to keep pulling this study down. There's 66%, our magic line that we don't want to see broken. Ironically enough, according to Mr. Foggenbaum here, and I think this was done off like a 4-hour, we actually should look for the market to come right back down to this original pot because there's the foggy boggy there. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, this is very early. No real buy signals here yet. The breadth indicator is flashing very washed out signals. In fact, I think that was the sort of tweet that I put out today was, yeah, we're getting washed out here. We'd actually want to see some bullishness come into the market here first before we can even get those fast buy signals. We're still in the, just give it some time. Just let it breathe a little bit here. And then, of course, like I said there a moment ago, there is no real bottom here yet. So if they roll this thing over and we break to new lows, then you're right back on to just sort of, just hurry up and wait. Nothing to do. So that's sort of the broader context. And what I really like is I think that it jives well with our breadth indicator now. Now we have a tool on the site that can it frames what we should be thinking here. And really simply put, if you're a bull, there's no hurry here at all. None. All right. I think I was supposed to be answering questions. Okay. So hopefully I gave you a place on the site where all my stuff should be posted. And I know that the team has, on at least 2 or 3 occasions, tried to create some sort of reporting mechanism for my trading. It just seems to constantly fall through. I've also put out a request on the site for somebody to help me track all my trades and make a nice, pretty spreadsheet over it. I do know that we had a couple people that did reply back and say, yeah, I'd be interested in doing that, Brian. So we haven't had a team meeting because Julian's been traveling overseas and we're still waiting for accounting and shit like that. So hopefully over the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe we'll have another formal team meeting and we'll bring that topic up again, because maybe we can, now that Stuart does have the page up and running, maybe now we can take another run at reporting everything that we're doing trade wise in a nice central location. But again, I don't want to overwhelm Stuart with those kind of jobs, because he sure has a heck of a lot on his plate as it is right now. And like a guy on the site, one site member, Paul, he has an automated trading system that he would really like to get up and running and have people at TRI be able to sort of copy trade kind of stuff, his stuff. Stuart's really jazzed about that, and he really would like to work on algos. He also has an algo of his own that he's working away on. So I don't really want to derail him off of that until he's done that kind of stuff. And as I said before, I'm not really in this for the ego. I know personally my accounts are doing perfectly fine. I try and post every single trade I do in that Brian's Big Bot room. If that's where it just sits for the time being, I'm happy with that. Okay, number 2, which setups from library setups is for level 1 students? Some of those are not able to understand. Yeah, I would definitely say your level 1, just keep it as simple as possible. The 3-step setup is just simply location, indicator confirmation, and price structure to help you frame your trade. I might even argue that the bot setup is a little bit advanced for level 1ers, but I would say the L Tangonator is what we really wanted to teach you in the level 1 program as a, hey, this asset's at the bottom end of its range and I'm looking to get in and, do things like sell halves on doubles or just 2-to-1 risk reward. It's a very simple, consistent setup that everybody, it's the very first setup that I learned. It's called the L Tangonator. We called it, I suppose, the Hollywood Nick years and years ago. That's what you're supposed to get out of the level 1 program, is how do I trade an L Tangonator? That's the whole point of learning Willie Stupid, MACD Bull Div, W and price structure, or a key reversal, or a candlestick pattern, Harami, or I would personally prefer inside bar. Then maybe I'll even take the Harami reference out of the course material because I don't want to confuse you with too difficult chart patterns. But nice and simple. Just keep it as simple as possible. So coming out of the level 1, the direct answer is L Tangonator. I know Graham sort of teaches a derivative of that called his 3-step setup, where sometimes location is slightly different. But L Tangonator and the bot, those are the setups that I want you to know coming out of the level 1. And you can use all 3 of those, or both of those setups on all 3 different time frame participants: day traders, swing traders, position traders, investors. All 3 of them can use those 2 setups. One for ranging markets, the L Tangonator, and one for trending markets, the bot. So hopefully that answers that. Number 3, hi Brian, any thoughts on Japan's equity market and the yen US dollar? Both were down materially this week. Would be interested in your thoughts on both charts. The issue here, I think, is that people are not acknowledging how bad the bubble in China really is. And I'd also argue too, one of the biggest beneficiaries of the Chinese economic expansion was Japan. So, how do you spell Nikkei? Is that right? Maybe not. Oh, there we are. I don't know which one's going to work. Hang on, let's try this one. Let's go weekly. There we go. So actually, looking at that chart, that doesn't look so bad, believe it or not. But at the same time, too, if weekly W's are bullish, weekly W's, what are weekly M's? Are they bullish or bearish? And this actually might even turn into like a monthly. Yeah, it is. There's a monthly M. Interesting how we're only now. What do you think the odds are that that was a reload short zone? It looks like it is. So my hunch is probably the domestic companies in Japan that that finally got back to these 1980s blow off top insanity move. Those domestic companies, they're finally unwinding them and selling those positions. It's not a pretty picture, I'll tell you that much. If anything, this should be a really good anecdote. That what do you think growth-wise out of Asia? Should we expect a lot of growth or maybe not so much? And I think the China fund just looks like a train wreck. I'm not quite sure why we've got NASDAQ on here. China fund. Ugh. Look at that beautiful top. This is a monthly chart too, eh? Can everybody see? You know what this is? That's the picture of Winnie the Pooh sitting on his toilet seat on his throne, all taking a one big on everybody's faces. That's what that is. When did Mr. Wonderful assume totalitarian dictatorship control of our great nation of China? It's got to be right around then. I mean, look at that. That is so pretty. And what was so funny was, back here, remember the talking heads? What do you call them? I don't know what the word is. But remember how you'd come out and you'd say something negative about China and there'd be like 10 people on social media that would jump out and go, no, you're wrong. You remember that? What do you think, folks? Is investing in China a good idea? You tell me. This is a monthly price chart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 months. Year and a half. And actually, where was that Jupiter-Saturn cross? Wasn't it right? I think it was like literally right there. God, look at that, eh? It's fun. This is a monthly price chart. What are you supposed to think if you ever see Willie get stupid on a monthly price chart? Actually, look at that. Didn't even quite got it. 21.71 is as high as it got there. Oh, look at that. It actually got stupidly overbought there. And then boom. That's fascinating, eh? God. Talk about it. Do you really want me to go on about how horrible China is? What's so funny is is it Palm Sunday? Today's a religious day, eh? Oh, is it Easter? Is it Easter weekend? Is this Easter weekend? Huh. Yeah, interesting. I've been so out of organized religion since Jojo died. I don't even keep track of religious holidays anymore. Isn't that interesting? All right. Well, happy religious. Suppose all the Christians out there go and do your thing. Take it easy. Oh, goodness. I suppose they don't give a shit about Jesus over there in China. Hey, I wonder what Winnie the Pooh thinks about Jesus. That'd be an interesting conversation. So, As I've said before, I actually think a huge part of the Chinese story is wrapped up in Japanese equities. That that clearly is not a good looking chart for investment purposes in China. So it looks to me like Japan's just about to break here. So ironically enough, I guess it's been having a bit of a stealth bull market, eh? I actually was telling who was it? I think it might have been the guys here before I got the video going here today. I was actually telling them that I believe that the global economy is about to sink into a massive depression. So, and ironically enough, I've said this to you guys before. The United States of America actually will do pretty well. It will be one of the only countries in the world that actually will come out of this okay. Some countries of this world, it might just dissolve into absolute chaos. Never heard of I mean, we're learning something new every day, eh? When was the last time you ever heard of a government requiring its citizens to basically stay in their jail cells 24/7? Like the entire population of Shanghai is basically a member of prison right now. I mean, we all know that the mafioso state there is completely bankrupt. We also know that the interest rate cycle has turned in earnest. So you put the two together, they're completely bankrupt. Debt to GDP 300%. That's what I mean by bankrupt. What's interesting is the government debt is actually not that bad. So what does that mean? Does that mean that to solve the problem, the Chinese government's going to have to nationalize everybody's debt and just swallow it up? What happens when these people actually start saying, okay, I need the money to start living. I need the money to do this or that. And it's not there, it's gone. What happens in that scenario? Is that one of the main drivers behind why Mr. Putin did what he did with Ukraine? I did find it interesting, the historical comparisons. After the US's greed cycle finished, what happened in the following recession? Greed cycle ends, bubble pops. What is the very first thing that the United States of America does? And you know, this is where guys like Andre over there on YouTube, he gets vindicated. I think you could make a complete argument that the whole war on terror, quote unquote, was entirely manufactured. You can easily make the argument that there was plenty of warning ahead of time that something nasty was in the works. Whether it be Israeli Secret Service, I know that they've publicly come out and said that they had plenty of forewarning. Hell, even the Americans themselves. So, you know, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go with all this shit, right? It's kind of sad, really. So, the end of the commodity cycle, does it not make sense that the countries that do well in the commodity cycle, the very first thing that they do is they need to go and manufacture some sort of crisis to change the conversation? I think the way to save countries like Australia and Canada was the whole sort of sickness story, which frankly speaking, I think is just a load of horse shit. It's part of, you know, Klaus's The Great Reset. They're, you know, 20 years from now, we're going to find out, oh yeah, it turns out it was all a scam. What a surprise. You know, one thing, I try and scold people on this site. Theoretically, we're educated. Theoretically. So that means we don't get goaded into making financial decisions based on emotional responses. what I'm a little concerned about, I see on the site, and I see it actually mostly in society, but not so much on the site. I've seen a little bit recently on the site, is people are posting content that is directly related to things like, oh, why are the Russians doing what they're doing? Why are the Americans doing what they're doing? And frankly speaking, I couldn't give a shit one way or the other. You all know. How do you tell when a politician's lying to you? You all know that. So it's not like, oh, well, the politician on the left is better than the politician on. No. How do you know when a politician is lying to you? It's really simple. So our job, I don't mind having the discourse. Did you see what that fucking idiot did? Right? Sorry. Did you see what that idiot did? I'm getting better. And of course, you know how important it is for us to keep the freedom of speech. As soon as these autocrats get rid of our freedom of speech, TRI's over. We're done. We're done. So obviously Brian's going to tout the freedom of speech, and I like the fact to have discourse. But anybody who's watching this as part of the TRI community, and there's one person in particular, your name starts with an F, you know who I'm talking about. I want you to post, if you're going to post that, post it in relation to, well, this sets up this trade. This backs up that trade. This supports this market theory. Because that's what we're here to do. That's the most important thing about all of this, is what we're trying to do is figure out how we can use what these idiots are doing around the world. And some of the things that they're doing are absolutely unconscionable. And us as individuals, there's not a hell of a lot we can do about it. It just is what it is. But how does this help us set up the next trade that we can go make some more money, compound our money? We get to the point where we're so rich. And ironically enough, you get to the point where you're so rich, you actually tune all this shit out. You go, you know what? I'm going to go buy my island. You do what you have to do over there. La, 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 la. I don't give a shit. And that's half of the reason why I'm not overly happy with the direction that we've taken our daily briefs, because we tried to do this kind of thing where, Brian will do 5 minutes on the news and 5 minutes on econs. And then Brian goes down the fucking news rabbit hole, and half an hour later, he's pulling his hair out and swearing and the whole damn thing. And it's just a big waste of time. So I'm thinking about how I handle that going forward. Looking at this image, to answer your question in particular, I mean, let's put it this way. Would anybody at TRI in their right mind actually buy an asset that looks like this? You're TRI educated, and you pull up a chart like that looks like this. Your very first thing that you should say is, well, what's a 50% rule? WD Gann. So what I would have loved to heard you said was, well, Brian, I shorted that M top, and my target is I expect these bears. And actually, this is a good trivia question. We kind of talked about it in the level 1 class today. Where are these, in this particular case, they're bears. Where are these bears sleeping right now? I don't think they're under the bed. And that'd be awful if they were under the bed, but the wife was in the bed with the mailman or something. Oh, terrible images. Didn't swear there, though. So in the pool of something, maybe the pool. These are the guys who thought that this was an M top and that we're going to go short and we're going to make a ton of money. And obviously they got caught and the market's ripping against them. So we like to say that these guys, they're sleeping on the couch right now, or they're out in the doghouse, right? But the wife is not happy with them whatsoever, and they better get the money back, or the family's going to officially kick them out of the family. So you can bet your bottom dollar, if we get price to come into this area, they are going to buy that shit up because they're short from there and they're dying 1,000 deaths right now. But if we can get back down into here, man, they're going to buy that up like no tomorrow. Also, too, you've probably heard me say in the past, candle body lows for trade location. So we have a really cool candle body low level right in there and there. Notice how that's basically sandwiching that 50% rule. Also notice too, this gap is actually still technically open. So this is unfinished business down here. Keep in mind, this is a monthly price chart. Monthly price chart. That's crazy. So I think the market has to trade down there at some point. It has no choice. And then what I thought was interesting about this is actually you can draw a nice simple trend line. What is the primary trend? Believe it or not, that I think is your primary trend right there. Just playing connect the dots. Boom, 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 boom. Let's go back to my room so we can do it all night and we can party all night. No, how does that go? So interestingly enough, you could probably also kind of figure out when this is going to happen. So all we do is we just sort of zoom out. And you can see that these two lines kind of, you could trade here. It could be here. My hunch is probably there. And that's 2040. That's 20 years from now. This thing could be trapped in something like that. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. So somebody asked me, Brian, what do you think? Well, that's what I think. Japanese equities are not buys, and they won't be buys for quite a while. And sadly, what does that mean about probably North American equities? Are North American equities probably a good buy? Fortunately, actually, Japanese stocks, they represent a pretty big chunk of the world's equity market. So, and as I said there before, I think a lot of sort of the West was using Japan as a proxy for China, because you can't really directly invest in China. You do that and you're just asking for trouble. In fact, there was a company called now I remember it. And now, how apropos. The company was called A Perfect World. And actually this was interesting. There was actually a movie. This was a stock. This was a stock that was listed down in the States, and fascinatingly, it was taken over by the CCP, and the West, whoever owned this, they were completely frozen out. Yeah, and it was in my level 3. It was a perfect example of the WDB options, right? And the trade worked perfectly. You got a whole bunch of free stock, and then the company was worth so much it was like trading ridiculously underneath book value. And the CCP came along and just said, "We're taking it out at this price. Thank you very much. Have a nice day." Oh, and you in the West? Fuck you. So it was a perfect example of the WDB. Excellent textbook. It was right. It was absolutely perfect. And then to add insult to injury, it was absolutely a perfect analogy of the CCP and investing in communist China. The CCP came along and just liberated the company and said, "Thank you very much. We're taking the equity. Have a nice day." And they was trading at I think it was something like, I think it was trading basically at cash. So in essence, they just took the cash that was on the books and right into their pockets. And that's what you get when you invest in China. It's very, very dangerous place. And the sad thing is this is after the fact now. Seeing the way that China fund looks like, that thing's a piece of shit. It's garbage. Winnie the Pooh. It's every, buyers of that China fund. I hate to say it. I mean, fuck, look at it. China, like if you bought into that China story, you are now sitting basically, at levels pretty much almost exactly right at the start of this story. There's 2003. That's when this whole China build out. This was the Chinese Olympics in 2008. This was in essence, I remember because I was a broker through all this. The Chinese basically were building out their economy, and this was the whole commodities bull market of George Bush Jr. Jr. And what's shocking about this, what's absolutely shocking is there is the Chinese Olympics right there. And, it didn't look so bad in China. But if you all remember, all the North American companies all got suckered into this, right? Oh, move all your, they used to call it downsizing and right sizing. Move all your manufacturing to China. Move it all to Asia. The profit stream's endless. You can get rid of all your expensive North American workers. And then, of course, we're going to build out the Three Gorges Dam. Does everybody remember the Three Gorges Dam? All that bullshit. And the worst was that the Chinese suckered the North Americans, and like specifically the North American capitalists through the venture cap market, supplying all the base raw materials for the Chinese building out their economy. Think of the venture market. So the venture market, it always gets bid up last, right? They always say the shit rises last. So you can see the venture market got bid up into that event. Chinese markets, Olympics come. They pulled the plug on everything. And you tell me, has the Canadian venture market even recovered yet from that event? And then add insult to injury. Did they just fucking do this to us again? Isn't that incredible? I tell you, folks, look at this chart. What letter of the alphabet is that? They just fucking did it to us again. There it is. It's plain as day. You gonna have anybody on CNBC show you this chart? You're gonna have anybody in Justin Trudeau's government gonna show you this chart? There is no fucking way they are ever gonna show you this chart because Justin Trudeau loves these fuckers. If anything, if you're a Canadian and you want to try and get the message out to the Canadian public about what's about to happen, I don't know. I don't see a single comment from any of you here on YouTube. Andre, do you see this? What's worse is there a candle pattern, or not a candle pattern, a chart pattern that we should be cognizant of that's actually working and it's actually telling you where this market wants to go? That's the scary part here, folks. If I ask you a question like that, what do you think the odds are? The answer is yes. I hope there's a Canadian venture market, so don't do that to us, please. And just out of curiosity, what does rising interest rates do to venture capital companies? Is the cost to borrow money, is it felt worse in companies that have earning streams or companies that have no earnings? Nobody can tell me what chart pattern is working here and that actually gives you a downside target? Scary. I think you can go, I'll do half of it, and then you guys tell me where the other half goes. We go boom, boom, boom. Oh. It's pretty close, eh? I don't know whether that's been hit or not. Looks like it. tough to say. But if that's the case, uh-oh. Boom. Boom. Oh, you're kidding me. Boom. That's pretty nasty. I wonder what Justin Trudeau is going to do in the face of that, eh? That is nasty. Is this the you will own nothing because everything's going to go bankrupt and you will still be happy? That's a bad looking chart, folks. That's not good at all. Oh, goodness. 22, 23. Uh-oh. Anyway, I won't belabor that point too much, but damn, that's incredible. Eh? Did those fuckers just do it to us again? Because keep in mind, at the end of that Olympics right here, right, we were sitting right here, right? So if it was the end of the Olympics, you'd be sitting here going, oh, that's key support. We're not going to break through that, Brian. But it was like month, bang, and then, of course, bang, 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 bang. So we're like right here, right now. Are we going to break? Are we going to break? Damn, that's scary. Now, what's the one thing that could probably save this? There's one thing that will save this, but it means that your loaf of bread is going to go up to, what is it? What's the loaf of bread right now? $3, $4? So it's probably going to go up to $7 or $8, $9. What happens if the central bankers come in and print another $10 trillion and they just blindly throw it at the market? Will that save it? Well, that's what this was. So we were heading off the cliff. You can see we were making lower highs and lower lows. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes out of nowhere and just prints a shitload of money. And all it did was it just rallied the market right back up to trendline resistance, which is interesting, eh? Anyway, I won't belabor that point too much more. All right. So, and I suppose if we do crap out like there's a bear A, B, C, D, that would be the same as that venture market collapsing. Now, the only reason why I don't think the money printing can happen this go round is because of this. And what's interesting is you can see the euro dollar market. This is the corporate interest rate market on the short end. Here's the Fed, right? So that's us right now. This is the Fed in a few months. So you can see there's still, even the Fed traders are still expecting the Fed to move up. If this is the Fed spread. So this is the spot contract. This is going out 3 months. If this is above $1 or 1.0, 1 full point premium, then it actually implies crisis. And you can see how we almost got into crisis. The spot market was like, uh-oh. And you can see how the Fed had to move. They had to raise rates. And they're actually even talking about raising rates by 50 basis points now. Can you believe that? 50 basis points. So the point here is that this white is the future Fed spreads, right? This is the spot one. It'll expire soon. This is the one that's coming down next. And you can see they just broke to new highs. So they're taking another run at this 1.0. You can see this is the corporate interest rate market. This is what actually drives the whole market, by the way. The Fed and the banksters and stuff, they say that they're in control of the market, but they're not. The market is the market. So Eurodollar market, this is massive. It's like hundreds of trillions of dollars of debt instrument paper. So point here is you can see that they are making new lows as we speak. And this is why I think that there will be no more runaway money printing. The world needs more runaway money printing. If the world does not get that runaway money printing, then Bitcoin has to come back down to earth. Oh, but I thought you said cost of production was down here anyway, Brian. So if the world doesn't get that money printing, then that inflation bubble starts to unwind and prices like Bitcoin come back down to value. And as we showed you there a moment ago on things like the Canadian venture market, if we don't get the money printing, then these assets come back down to value. And, the worst part about it is that this is all a fugazi. Remember, these venture companies, they have no earnings. If they are straddled in debt, that's why it's so critical that the companies that we invest in the venture cap market have no debt. Because now you see the way interest rates are going up. The sad thing is companies might go under. What do you think? What about all these countries and Justin Trudeau? Hey, you get 10 billion, you get 10 billion, you get 10 billion. Well, they don't actually have the money. What they're doing is they're saying, we are going to float more government debt. And of course, the market is going to buy that debt. And we will just make interest payments on that debt. Well, is it possible, just maybe, the market is going to say, you know what, we've had enough of your money printing. We're not going to buy your bonds anymore. There will be no buyer for your bonds. Then what does Miss, I've got a university education in Eastern European history, and I haven't got a fucking clue about how the financial markets actually work. What is she going to do then? Do you see how the market, these are the Canadian government bond ETF. How's that been going since, Miss, I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm doing? How's that been going? Are these bonds, which are technically representative of the ownership of the country, are these bonds getting more valuable or less valuable as every day goes by? Let's call a spade here, folks. Well, I'd agree with you, Andre. The only problem is, how are you going to get George Bush out there? I mean, that guy technically is responsible for the death of probably about 250,000 Iraqis. And after he retired, they asked him, so George Bush Jr., what are you going to do with your life? Oh, I'm going to become a painter. What? You literally have the blood of 250,000 Iraqis on your hands, and he's going to sit there and just paint pictures of flowers. So what do you do, Andre? They're all fucked. It's the problem is, I mean, you know what the solution to all this is? The solution to all of this is, I hate to say it, the human race itself is a parasite on this planet that, kind of like they said in the Matrix, should be removed from this planet. This human species. I actually think that the human species was created by people like the Anunnaki, maybe 30, 40, well, maybe 100,000, 200,000 years ago, as a slave species. Then they all started wars with each other, and they were taken off the planet, and they sort of forgot about us. And here we are, 50,000 years later, still trying to pick up the pieces, in a world that we don't really understand, and we're kind of like half educated, if that. So anyway, there's Brian's thought. Well, and there's an interesting question, Alex, and the irony of it all is, Canada technically has more commodities more oil than Saudi Arabia. So why is it our leader is trying so desperately to get us out of the business of that commodity? So, I suppose if the Elon Musks of the world have their way, then a huge sort of perceived wealth of Canada would just evaporate. So, that's a tough one. And then, the irony of it all is that, and this is the scary part about Canada, is we've conned ourselves into believing that big government is good. But what worries about me is if you have more people in a society that are deriving their income from government sources, well, government doesn't technically actually do anything. And then if you go and put all your commodity revenue producing assets to bed and you don't use them, how are you going to pay for government? How does this keep going? Well, the answer, for the past 30, 40 years has been, well, interest rates keep falling and the trend in interest rates is down, so we can just keep issuing more and more and more debt. So what we have is a situation now, I believe, with the Jupiter-Saturn cross here and the 80-year money cycle, where the shit's going to hit the fan with all this borrowing. And I don't quite understand how these people are going to reconcile this. It doesn't make any sense. The baby boomers, who would have been the primary purchasers of these government bonds to pay for their retirement, they're gone. My stepmother's a good example, and she's like, I can't believe I'm in my late 70s. She was born in 1945. It's a perfect example of a baby boomer. So she's done. Through that demographic cycle, the fear cycle, there was an inherent demand for government bonds, but that demand is gone. And then what's scary now is as that, like the US Federal Reserve Board, they don't give a flying fuck about Canada. Down in the States, I would make an argument that, of course, and keep in mind, these guys really drive the bus of everybody. There is that bull market in bonds. But what's fascinating is when we got to the end of the bull market in the bonds, which technically should have been here, the U.S. government came along through the Fedsters because they just issued too many bonds. This thing should have broken here. They just went and they started buying bonds in the marketplace. And coincidentally, they stopped their bond buying right at that Jupiter-Saturn cross. And fascinating, you can see, right? The Jupiter-Saturn cross is basically right there. And interesting, this is almost like that Chinese Olympics thing. Jupiter-Saturn cross happens, Chinese Olympics 2008, the whole fucking market just rolls over and heads down. So there's the Jupiter-Saturn cross. Hopefully all of you can see the big fat M. What are we supposed to think if you see the market smiling at us? All right. Millionaires disregard astrology. Billionaires don't. There it is. Boom. Next month following that event, there's your sell signal. Just as simple as that. And we've just been cascading our way lower. Does that look like a trending higher or a trending lower market? And we all know, of course, the direction of interest rates are opposite to that. So by definition, which direction are interest rates going? And now that these governments have all this debt, can governments issue more debt? Is that possible? Are governments actually going to get to the point where they actually can't afford the payments just to make the interest payments? And that's usually when these cycles shift. That the conversation will get to the point where the societies themselves can't even meet the interest payments. Soon as we get to that point, that's when the banksters will turn this around and start heading the market the other direction. And Who can tell me what two planets will cross just about exactly on that date? Can you put the fucking pieces together, people? Have I wasted 20 years of my life trying to teach you people this? Well, not 20, 10 years. No, not EVA. What did I just say? What was this damn line here, you idiots? You're pissing me off now. I mean, it's just that simple. Go back and look at this damn. It's shocking how cliche this is. It's remarkable. So anyway, it's happened. It's now past tense. Hey, does anybody still listen to that? What's that guy's name? The Bond King. Remember that guy, the Bond King? I don't see any of his videos on YouTube anymore. What happened? That guy was all the rage. Oh, goodness. Mr. Bond King must be getting just destroyed here. Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's, what time is it? Oh, my goodness. I got to get heading out of here soon. Okay, I think I got 2 questions done. I got that one done. Okay, any thought? Oh, yeah, so Japan. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, that fucking Japan chart looks like a train wreck, eh? This could be a 2000. Okay, who asked this question? Blocks. I don't know whether you're here or not. Are you familiar with the Benner cycle? So to answer your question, what's in that bag? Yeah, I know. Tell me about it, Sharky. Yeah. Then also, too, have you ever seen the light bulb? I got such an interesting light bulb. There's something about that light bulb that actually is the secret to anti-grav, I think. But oh well. So if you want my thoughts on this, remember I showed you the venture exchange in Canada. I think this is all tied in with the Benner cycle, the bottom in the crypto market, everything. And it's not painting a pretty picture. I mean, the sucky thing is we had to go through 2018, 2019, bit of a tough slog there for crypto. I think it's basically the same thing. 2022, 2023 is going to be a repeat. So you can just keep, you're just going to, I mean, fuck, imagine if, oh, sorry. Imagine if you had to live in Eastern Europe right now. So us sitting here complaining about, oh, damn, the price of eggs is twice as what it was last week. I suppose that's better than having to live through the life that they're living through right now. So God rest your soul, you beautiful Eastern Europeans on both sides. Crazy humans end up murdering each other and taking advantage of each other. It makes me sick to my stomach. Okay, number 4, and then maybe we'll head out of here. So what do you determine when to DCA nanny nibbles using little old lady? Can the 3 reasons be 1 fundamental and 2 technical? Example, a good fundamental story, a great location, and any one of the technical indicators. Okay. So first and foremost, when do you determine things like nanny nibbles, little old lady? So this, by definition, really all I care about is I want a half decent fundamental story and I want to be at or below reload zones. I can just leave it at that. That is enough for me to justify nanny nibble, little old lady approach. But remember, these are very, very small purchases. Ideally, if I'm doing that nanny nibbles, I want to leave myself in a position. This CLAS is a perfect example of that. Where when I bought the thing, I knew that it was going to come down. And I knew that the seasonality was not the best time to be like loading up. But I wanted to build a position. And even now, this position on my overall portfolio, even with all of this buying, it only represents about, I guess about 1% of my stake. I'm in it for about $5,000 to $6,000. Open book. I'll just be completely honest with you. So even now at 1%, I'm still not really overly concerned about this. But you can see where I just put myself on my dollar cost averaging plan where, I mean, you tell me, is this thing at the bottom end of its range? It definitely is. So I just put myself on my dollar cost averaging plan. I started to do my nanny nibbling. I think I've hit my limit. I don't really want to buy anymore. I did buy a little bit more here at 15 and a half. My average, as you can see, is sitting right there. If this thing performs at all, then, and anything like this insanity, then I've hit a home run. If we can just rally up into even the levels that we saw last fall, I do very, very well. If we rally up and fill in this gap, which is my technical target, then it meets all of my upside criteria for what I was expecting out of the trade, and I can walk away totally comfortable. So good example. You can see how many purchases I've done. And really all this was pretty good fundamental name, only 30 million out or so. In insiders were incentivized from about 40, 50 cents. The one thing I didn't like about this story was they did a convertible debenture, which I would have preferred that the guys had come in and just bought stock instead of doing more debt, which made me upset. And that's probably half the reason why this thing came all the way back down to the bottom, because it wasn't an equity deal, it was a debt deal. Having said that, convertible debenture add 50 cents. So if they want to get paid, their strike price is 50 cents. So I'm happy being long down here. Like I said, insiders are long from 50 cents. So if they want to get paid, then fine. So that's two good, good share structure, two okay fundamentals, not really a hell of a lot technically to beat your drum about. But just following the plan. I like the fundamental story. And there's at below reload zones, definitely in what I would consider value territory. So I put myself on my dollar cost averaging plan and I just started buying. Technically speaking, I actually think that you got your buy signal here. Hey, look at that goddamn buy signal. So, hey, at least we got some bullishness. Now, ideally, I'd like to see this form a W completely on the other side of that trend line. Hell, I'd like to see this bigger W come in and confirm that. And then, of course, I'd like to see a W come in on the other. It's just more and more technical reasons. But I would say that this thing is looking at like it's finally starting to base here. So then the fundamental news is pretty good. So I don't have any concerns about this. But if anything, not really touting this. All I'm just saying is you want an example of me coming in, nanny nibbling, not really having technical justification to come in and start accumulating. There's a pretty good example. Half decent fundamental story, pretty good trade location. So I put myself on a dollar cost averaging and I started buying. I hope that helps. Can the three reasons be one fundamental and two technical? It could. I think the most important thing, as it always goes. What's the most important? Who can tell me what are the three words in real estate investing? There's three. So if you are going to invest in real estate, you got to know these three words. Good. So a couple people in the hangout here know. Hey, there's Andre. He knows. I mean, it's a broken record. Hopefully you've heard it a million times before, so it's nothing new. So I would say the same thing with stocks and commodities and cryptocurrencies and everything. Location is always the most important. Always, 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 always. So, if you were like, well, Brian, I got a really good fundamental story. It's painting a W in RSI and maybe a W in OBV, but it's right up at the top of the range. I'm not going to endorse little old lady dollar cost averaging nanny nibble. Just not going to do it. 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 You give me a few half decent fundamental reasons. Okay, cool. And you've got location, but you have nothing else. I'm okay with that. Believe it or not, I believe that technically speaking, if you get location correct, but you fuck up price structure, you fuck up momentum indications, divergence, all right, you bakaka, whatever you want to say, then you actually still have quite a bit of wiggle room. I mean, like you look at Bitcoin. If you had bought Bitcoin a few years ago down at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, not really too worried about technical ideas, other than the fact that it was down finally back a reload zone from that 20,000 peak. You did all right. You didn't have to have a big fat W in anything. I mean, you want to help time your purchases, obviously that makes sense, but I think location is the most important thing. Okay, that's the end of the questions here. It is well after 1 o'clock. I have a date with my son here shortly. I'm a little bit fragrant, so I have to go bathe, and would like to get pretty for him and give him an awesome afternoon. So I think I'm going to leave it at that for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the rant. Rants. How many rants? I can't remember how they were. Hopefully I was relatively positive. Hopefully you got some value out of all this. Thank you so much. Murrow, we owe you a site something. Maybe we'll give you like a free year subscription to the screeners. That was good work on your part. Thank you for holding me to account there. I appreciate that. I've got some work to do to update the class material. Thank you, Murrow. But hey, if anything, the most important thing here is we're honest, straightforward. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I'm trying my best. I don't think that the process has really changed a hell of a lot over the past 100, 200 years. So if we can help you learn the process, awesome. If I need to be updated, hey, old man, you kind of got your terms a little bit wrong here. This is what the textbook says. Hey, I am humble enough to appreciate when you are showing me information that I need to acknowledge. And so thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you for the best wishes with Liam. I love that. It fills my heart, believe it or not, when you guys say that. And I think subconsciously it must come out when I deal with them, because I'll just literally say to them, okay, everybody on the site said that we were going to have an awesome afternoon. So let's go have an awesome afternoon. So thank you guys. By all means, good luck everybody on their exams. And if you're watching this video for the first time, maybe hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. As another gentleman who I've been watching lately, who's been calling for basically the top in the Chinese market, which I think is accurate. Bless the Google algorithm. I think that's what he calls it. So we'll say that. Bless the Google algorithm. As Block says there, the class is amazing, which I, frankly speaking, think it is. I don't think you get the kind of value that we impart in this education program anywhere else. I think there are other people that are as good or even better traders, but I don't think there's anybody else there on the net that has the same focus on PMA, same focus on community, same focus on trying to make this an enjoyable experience, trying to make this a communal experience where we all work together to get better, and we all keep our egos in check because we're all here just trying to make a better world. I don't think you'll find this anywhere else on the internet. I'm so privileged that Julian Siord and I are able to do this job on a daily basis and bring this platform to you. Super blessed. I'm super blessed that I've had all these wonderful people brought into my life. I've actually done something constructive with what I would consider a life that was over. So I hope my maker, when I get on the other side, says, Brian, I'm proud of the hard work that you've done. And as I can say, the only thing, the way that you guys can all help me is you can make my son, who sadly suffers from autism, he's a very low functioning autism. So you just give him those karmic wishes, and it's beautiful to see that karmic feel. I can actually feel it when I'm with him, Because like I said, every time I ask you guys for those blessings, he seems to be in a very good spirit. So knock on wood. So hope I haven't jinxed it, but that's the way you guys can help me. And of course, if we can help you with getting your shit together and getting yourself ready to take on the world and not get sucked into the media trap and the emotional trap when it comes to investing your hard-earned money, then hey, it's a small positive. So, all right, everybody, PMA for the win. All the best. We will see everybody, of course, tomorrow morning for Daily Brief. Feel free to pop on the site, do the 30-day trial. Maybe we'll convince you to stick around a little bit. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. All the best. Who's Kyle? I don't know who Kyle is. But thank you, Josh. I'll definitely pass on my best wishes to Liam and Kyle, whoever that is. All right, everybody. Have a great day. All the best. The only thing left for me to say is bye for now.